Thanks so much for listening to No Lions Here with me, Big Panda. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to No Lions Here. My name is Big Panda, and I'm a recovering sex addict. Welcome back to the show. Before we jump into it, as always, I want to give a shout out to Begin Again Institute out in Boulder, Berthoud, Colorado. That's where I started my journey. And so if you or anyone you know is struggling with sex or porn addiction, definitely go check them out. Their description will be their information. I always screw that up. Their information will be in the description below. So definitely go check them out. Give them a call. Again, even if it's just something you're questioning, or reach out to me too. Like, I can share my experience. Or if you go back earlier on in the pod, I talk about my experience there with them as well. So definitely go check them out. Yeah, Happy New Year. Let's see. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot to cover. I haven't really been recording. I just been like, first and foremost, because like I've been struggling. I just been struggling lately. Just the move, the new job. It's just I'm feeling it, man. And like, I don't want to hold back either. Like, I'm feeling it mentally, emotionally. Like, I am just, and here's like, jump right into it, I guess. I've no better time than now. Happy New Year. I don't think I ever came on and said that. Super Bowl was last night, so that was really cool. That was interesting. A bit of a snooze fest of a game. I had some buddies over, had some friends over, and we did like a fast food buffet, which was kind of cool. We all kind of like polled and see what kind of fast food we liked, and just got a bunch of it. And it was, again, the Super Bowl was a little bit of a snooze fest. A little bit. I mean, good game defensively, but it was a little bit of a snooze fest. And then, of course, we had the halftime show. The Bad Bunny halftime show, and like, I don't ever want to get political on here at all. And I thought that the overall message was good, right? Like, I think the message was something along the lines of like, love is more powerful than hate. And so, again, I had no problem with that. So I thought it was interesting, right? Just a little hard, and all being in Spanish. And again, I'm not that big of a deal, but it just was. It was interesting for sure. Interesting, and it seems to be again like just another thing that divides us. And man, I hate the divide right now. Whatever you believe in, it is what it is. And again, I'm not going to get into what I believe in. I just think that because this isn't the space for this. This is not a political podcast. This is not this is and I'll get into that here in a minute, but what a little bit more. But so, the divide, man, like, I hate the divide right now. The divide is just, it's really hard. It's social media, man. It kind of sucks. It kind of sucks that there's not more love and understanding. And I think that was kind of like the basis of the halftime show. And I wish that there was more love. I mean, again, we don't have to agree. We don't have to agree on things politically or socially to like not get along and like just love each other. And that's what I love about recovery in the rooms that we're in, right? Like, we don't go into these rooms based on our ethnic backgrounds, our political backgrounds, our religious, spiritual backgrounds, right? Like, we go into these rooms because I have a problem. And immediately, as soon as I walk into that room, I can relate with everybody in that room on some level, in some way, shape, or form. And especially when we're talking sexual addiction, the shame, right? The shame that brings me into the room is the first thing. Well, I guess shame. Anyway, the shame that I feel from this addiction, from sexual addiction, specifically sexual addiction, man, because I believe that that's the killer around sexual addiction, is the shame that I feel around my past, around my behaviors. When I walk into that room, that's something that everybody else can identify with, and that is that shame piece, right? Like, so again, like, I don't care what your background is. Like I went to a meeting last week and I cried because I'm struggling, I'm hurting, man. And what was really cool was, like, regardless if I agree with how people run their programs, or if people agree how now I run my program, like, what we can agree upon is like, hey, we're here for the same reason. I have a problem with sexual behaviors. harmful sexual behaviors, and I want help. And I'm going to try to be as authentic and vulnerable as I can in this process. Again, I'm not always going to do it perfectly. You're not always going to do it perfectly. But, I showed up and I cried, man. I shared where I was at, honestly. And it was actually, it was during a tradition talk too, which is one of my meetings. Which I really like the literature and getting into the literature and the blue book, as we like to call it, not the big book, not big book of AA. Grateful for AA for the big book, but again, the SCA Blue Book, Sexual Compulsives Anonymous, or if you're in SAAA, the Green Book. I don't know what SLAA has, but again, just getting into the literature, because there's things that we don't get into in the literature that I really like, or at least I'm finding a place in my own recovery for it. So, and there's things in there that I can relate to a lot of, and so with basically my what I want to do in this episode is I want to get into detail about what I'm dealing with, and then I also want to talk some solutions and what some of the things that I'm trying to do, or the things that I'm doing. Right, I tend to try to steer away from that language of I'm trying, I'm doing it, and this is what I tell the people all the time when I talk to guys on the phone, and they're like, Alex, I'm trying, and I'm quick to remind them that you're doing. I had a good buddy of mine in the program that would always say that to me, I'm trying, and he'd go, Alex, you're doing it. So I like to try to, but I like to focus on solutions, and I don't want to just come on here and invent on where I'm at and without talking any kind of solutions. So, first and foremost, right? So this year, one of the things that maybe, I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but one of the things that I'm really looking at doing right now is simplifying things, keeping things simple, right? I'm struggling. And that goes the same with the podcast too, right? My focus this year on the podcast, because I've shared with you guys, and when we're talking about shame, right? I feel some shame around, we're into February. I talked about hey, this being a big year for the podcast and content and just pushing, and guys, have struggled to do anything around the podcast this year. Absolutely struggled. Now I'll be honest, my sponsorship would be AI. That's kind of up in the air right now. I'm bringing on a marketing guy, which is gonna help, but it costs money, and not a lot of money, but money that I could use the sponsorships for. I could use the sponsorships to bring in money to kind of help pump the numbers, because it's not right now for me. It's not so much about recording. It's more or less trying to pull from existing content, and I've got a lot of it, thank God. This is one of the things I am really grateful for, is I already have a lot of content to pull from. It's just getting somebody to go in and pull from it and essentially kind of create things that I can post to try to get some more viewership, to try to get more sponsorships. And again, I'm really trying to keep this simple, and I don't want to put too much effort into this. I don't want to burn myself out, and that's why, again, I'm looking at bringing somebody on, which has been a little bit of a point of contention in my relationship, and again, we'll kind of get into that. So along the lines of the podcast, right, is in keeping it simple, is over the last, I don't know, year and a half or so, the focus has been kind of on overall recovery. And in talking to this marketing guy, who's also in the program himself, and hopefully a really good friend of mine, actually really cool. We met a few years back, and he had some, he basically ran his own marketing company, built it from the ground up. Well, and then as this addiction does, it can kind of derail things, kind of blow our life up, as he likes to say. And so essentially he found himself in the program down here. I'm not from here, but he found himself in the program in the city. And, we became friends very fast and stayed very close. And, I knew he had this background, but I also knew he needed to sort some stuff out in his life. And recently he came to me and said, hey, man, I'm ready. I want to help. So I was like, dude, I've been waiting for you, because, you guys know this. I've been sharing this. I need the help. I need the help. I can't do this on my own. It's really overwhelming. I need the help. So, but in one of our very first conversations, we've had kind of one meeting, sit down, talk conversation, and that is like simplify the message, tighten things up a little bit, right? So what is my goal? My goal is to spread the message around sexual addiction and outwardly being a sex addict. Yes, I believe that, recovery is recovery is recovery. However, at the same time, I do think that there are different levels to things. And, things are kind of saturated with like just the overall recovery. So it's like, let's get back to the basics, right? I started this and, we were on the phone with him and I felt it was so interesting. We're again, really good friend of mine, but we're having this business talk, so to speak. And like, there was this like shame or guilt around like not having a full picture, right? He's asking me questions, what's the purpose? What's the vision? And I'm gonna, I want to answer it perfectly because I want to get it right. Cause I don't want him to think differently of me. And like, and I just eventually shared, I was like, dude, I'm nervous. I am nervous. I feel like I have to have the right answers. If I don't have the right answers, you aren't going to want to work with me. Because like right now I'm not paying him, but and he was like, dude, it's all good, man. I'm just trying to get a better picture so that I know how to better help you. And so like part of that is simplifying and taking it back to the basics. Why did I start this podcast? Why, right? I got to ask myself that question. Why did I start the podcast? I started the podcast to spread the message around sexual addiction and share my journey to recovery through recovery from sexual addiction. So this year, what I want to do is I want to focus on that message. I also want to focus on partners and betrayal trauma and partners of sex addicts. Because again, right? What's not talked about? Sexual addiction is not talked about. What's talked about even less than sexual addiction? Betrayed partners of sex addicts. And so, obviously, I had on Raina, which was a great episode. If you haven't caught that episode, definitely go check that out. I think that that's just a really good episode for partners. Partners, I mean, whether that's you're in recovery for sexual addiction or you're a betrayed partner, I think that there's good information there at all. So, like, the overall theme, right? Keeping it simple. What's the message? Simplifying and being a little bit more clear with what the intention is. And that is like, hey, focus on sexual addiction, right? So talking about like, man, and so if we're talking about sexual addiction, right? Like with where I'm at right now, like the urges have been there. Like even just today, man, I'm at home, I got the day off, but man, like Beanie and I we've been going through it. We had our very first like big, like kind of big fight about a week and a half ago. 8 days ago. And it was scary. It really scared me. I don't think that I had really seen that side of her, and what I'll say is that like, it just was like, it kind of escalated very quickly. There were raised voices and there were things that were said that were kind of hurtful. I didn't go about, trying to get my points across. I feel like I had valid points, but I don't feel like I did a good job of like, again, it just from both of our ends. I don't think that it was, I felt like, all you're telling me the conversation started a few days before, right? So this was kind of building. I mean, it was literally right before we went to Branson with her family on this little mini vacation, which was actually really nice. It was nice to get away. But, she had kind of came to me with that and basically said like, hey, I feel like you're not, I feel like you're holding things back from me emotionally. I feel like you're not, telling me things. I feel like you're not being transparent. Every time I try to ask you how you're doing, you just kind of hit me with like, I'm okay. And, and like, so I hear that, right? And I basically hear like, man, I think that I'm doing okay. Right. I think that I'm doing okay within the relationship. I think that I'm now, is there a kind of a distance right now? This transition has been way harder than I thought it was going to be or have even given it credit for. Like this move and the job switch, it has been hard. It has been very hard, man. I'm trying to get into a groove, a routine. I don't really have that, where her and I are kind of missing each other. There definitely feels like some roommate aspect of this and like the distance and like, and she's she's brought it up to me before, like I feel distant, I feel like we're kind of roommates, and like, you know, I I don't think that I don't necessarily like disagree with her. However, I also don't feel like I feel like this is just kind of like part of the process. And like I don't want to minimize. I really don't, cuz that's not who I am or what I want to do in the relationship, but like I don't want to minimize like her feelings around it. Also though, I'm looking at my end going, man, I feel like I'm okay. Like, yeah, I've always got something going on in my head. I'm always thinking about things, and what can I do and what can I do differently, and like, there's always a lot of that going on. There's also times where like she's like, hey, how are you doing? And like in that moment I'm okay. Like in the moment I'm okay. So like there's nothing pressing in the moment that I feel like I need to bring up to her. And also sometimes I don't want to talk. Sometimes I've spent my entire day in my head. And maybe I've had some conversations with some program friends. And like what I like about the program friend conversations, talks to my sponsor and other program friends, is like there's no filter. I can just really just kind of spew what it is that I need to get out. And then okay, we can kind of pick through things. And so that's a little different as far as like I'm trying to learn how to interact within a relationship that's not just kind of that spewing nature, because that spewing nature, again, it's more of like a vent that I almost need to get this out. And so again, sometimes I don't want to talk. Sometimes I feel like I'm okay in the moment, again, just in that moment, and so, I'm going, man, I hear you. And what I hear is, what I hear is you're telling me I'm not doing good enough. And that hits a very deep core wound of mine. And I have had some ugly, ugly cries over this. 'Cause again, it just, man, I'm confused. There's confusion there. There's kind of some frustration there. There's just like, man, I thought that like I was doing okay. I thought that I was doing enough. Well, turns out it's actually not good enough. And so like, in those moments, like I want to hear her, I want to be there for her, but also too, like I got my own thoughts and feelings on what's going on, and I got my own thoughts and feelings with how you're bringing this to me, and like, okay, if you're gonna bring me some things, like I'd like to bring you some things too, and so, but then like all weird times on these conversations too, right? We literally have this first initial conversation literally right before we're about to drive 4 hours and go spend time with our family. No private time, no time to step aside and say, hey, we need to revisit this and we need to hash some things out. Like there's no time for that. And again, this isn't her fault. This isn't my fault. Like nobody's fault. Like just look, she brought it up. Okay. I want to be there. Well, then it's like, so then we get home, and when she makes this, getting ready to leave. I got a hockey game, and she makes this comment about she's still really uncomfortable and unhappy, and I'm definitely in an avoidant. I'm not necessarily one that's gonna say, well, hey, let's put a pin in it and circle back around, because I was like, I don't want to circle back around. I don't. It seems like it's too hard, but now in recovery and in this relationship, I need to do that. So I'll own that. I'll own that, like, yeah, I wasn't very forthcoming with being like, hey, let's plan a time to talk through this, like but, and, in that moment, when she tells me that, it's like, okay, well, I'm literally getting ready to walk out the door, and like, hey, can we, like, okay, like, and I made this comment about like, I hear you, I don't really know what to do or how to go about this, because part of my job in this moment is just to hear you, and that's what I want to do is I want to hear you in this, and I kind of need some time to process all of this too, like, but then I also said, hey, like, I think we need to like take this to counseling, and I think that there's some harder conversations that need to be here, because I've got some things that I've got some thoughts and feelings that like I want to get out too. And she was like, and that's the problem. I feel like there's things that you aren't telling me. And I was like, okay, here you go. And this is where like I don't think that I went about it, in the best way possible. And so, that's something that I'll own there, is again, I don't think that I went about it in like the best way possible. And that was just, telling her, what it is that was on my mind, that I thought that, man, okay, like, hey, you're coming into me with some things that you'd like to see me doing differently. Well, you know what? I got my own list. And, I need to do a better job of not holding on to that list, for an extended period of time like I've done. That's on me. But I also like I don't know how to bring it up. Like that's another issue of mine. Is like I don't know how to bring it up because I'm afraid that like it's gonna hurt her feelings. I'm afraid to bring things up, and I don't know if there's anybody else out there. I'm not the only one. I know that. I'm curious. If that's something that you can relate to. Like let me it. And so we kind of had this, and she didn't take it very well. Again, and I probably wouldn't either. So again, I'm not getting on her at all. And the point of talking about this, guys, is like I don't want to. I don't want to ever bash my partner, or it's not what I'm doing. I'm just trying to kind of share. But this has really been what's weighing on me, And again, I'm trying my best here, I'm trying my best. I'm doing my best, and it sucks when like you think that you're doing your best, and someone close to you says, "Actually, I don't think you are," and like that's like hard to hear, and for me, like that's not like a motivation type thing. Like some people, I guess, that can motivate them, But like for me, that doesn't motivate me. That actually causes me to go inside, and maybe one day it can motivate me. I don't know, but like I gotta stick to my truths and who I am, and that doesn't necessarily motivate me. And so that was really hard. That was just really hard to hear. Really, really hard to hear. So it's like, okay, so what? What can I do about this? Let me try to talk to her more and fill her in more on what's going on. And, basically, here's everything. Here's my day in a nutshell. And so now we get into like asking for some needs, and like, I have to ask for my needs. I have to. That's what I am in charge of. That is what I can control. I need to ask for my needs. And so in one of the conversations that her and I had was like, I was just filling her in like, hey, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm struggling with. I'm definitely struggling with like not feeling like I'm doing good enough. And like, I don't, and, in those moments, what has always been very helpful for me is like just being seen and heard. Right. Getting that core need of like, man, I see you and I hear you, and man, that sounds really tough. And like, man, that's a lot to carry right now. That's kind of what I'm looking for. And it's up to me to say that. So she comes in and, she's like, well, can you use that to motivate you? And like, and that's not, and again, she doesn't know because I haven't said anything to her. And so again, that's where my part comes into play. What's my part in this? And I always thank God for recovery. I always want to be looking at my part. I mean, I think way more people could benefit from that. Inside, outside of the rooms, be willing to look at what is my part in this, because I always have a part to play. I am not being open and honest with my communication around what I need. And even in that moment, right? Like I kind of like shied away, and like I needed to get in the shower. So I just got in the shower. And then, of course, in the shower, I'm going through, man, I should have said this. I should have said, hey, look. But again, I'm afraid to hurt her feelings, right? I want her to feel like she's involved in my life. And I don't want her to think that like, hey, I don't care. I want her to know that like I value her opinion and I value her thoughts. I really do. However, there's sometimes where like I just need to be seen and heard. And I just need to be told that like, oh, you're doing enough, Alex. Because that was, I was on the phone with Jeff, my sponsor, the other day, a couple days ago. And like, I'm telling him, man, I'm going, dude, I'm struggling. Like, this is where I'm at. I feel like I'm not doing good enough. I'm struggling, this is the feelings. And he said, well, he started to go into this huge, like, well, Alex, you got this going on and you got this going on. And I'm not surprised at this. And I'm not surprised at this. And I like, I'm hearing him, right? And I'm going, I know all this. This isn't what I need. I actually need him to tell me that I'm doing good enough. I need him to tell me that, but he's going on and I don't want to stop him. And I was like, dude, I struggle internally with like being like, hey man, I'm going to stop you there. And again, this is a guy that I have built a relationship with, over the last 5 years. We've gotten into it. We've had our resentment. We've had our issues, and yet like our relationship is very strong, and I can go to him with anything. But in that moment, like I struggled to like ask for what I needed, and eventually I kind of stopped him. I said, "Dude, Jeff, I gotta stop you there, man. Like, I need you to tell me that I'm doing good enough." And as soon as I got to that, like, dude, I just bawling, ugly crying in the car, and he goes, "Oh, Alex," he goes, "I want you to hear me, man." He goes, "Oh, Alex," he goes, "I'm so sorry, man." He said, I want you to cry, and I want you to feel this, and I want you to get it out, but I want you to hear me. I'm going to start talking." And he just started talking, man, just telling me, where I was doing good enough. And I'm like, that's what I needed. That's what I needed in the moment. But yeah, it's so hard for me to ask for that. It's so hard for me to ask for that. But like, I need to be told that like I'm doing good enough. I need to be told that. Like, I need to be told that. I need to be told that. I really do. That is a need that I have. That like I need you to see and hear me. And I need you to tell me when I'm doing good enough. Because trust me, internally, I'm already aware of what I'm not doing good enough in. And so, yesterday morning, and so I was talking to the girlfriend. I'm kind of all over the place here, but like the other night, I did open up to her. I said, "Man, I feel like I'm doing everything for everybody else. I'm being of service, man. I'm been a lot of service lately." Hey guys, I just want to take a minute to share something deeply personal and transformative in my journey of recovery. I've been where you might be right now, struggling with the weight of addiction and feeling lost. But there's a place that offered me a new beginning, a place I truly believe in. It's called Begin Again Institute. At Begin Again, they understand the deep-rooted trauma behind addiction. Their 14-day intensive program for men tackles the neurobiological aspects of addiction head-on. It's not just about breaking a habit. It's about understanding and healing the underlying trauma that formed it in the first place. And for those who have been impacted by betrayal, Begin Again extends care to partners of addicts too. Their partner support program is offered at no additional cost to the family and runs alongside the men's intensive. This program helps participants gain an understanding of the trauma they've experienced and sets them on their own path to healing. If you or someone you love are grappling with sexual addiction, pornography addiction, or intimacy issues, Begin Again Institute can be that pivotal step towards recovery and a new lease on life. Remember, you can't go back and change the past, but it's never too late to begin again. To learn more about their life-changing program, visit beginagaininstitute.com or call 720-776-9076 to reserve your spot in the next 2-week intensive. I promise, it'll be the best call that you ever make for yourself. Stay strong, keep fighting, and keep tuning in to No Lions Here for more conversations about recovery, resilience, and hope. But I feel like I'm not making time for myself. And, yesterday morning we woke up and she was like, "Hey, can we talk? I'm feeling a little uncomfortable." And I said, "What's up? Talk to me here." And she's like, "I feel kind of frustrated. Like, you say you don't have this time, but like you on paper you do have this time. On paper you said you're working part-time, you were going to work on the podcast. Like, where are you at with all that? You're not doing that." And I'm frustrated. And I'm going, "Oh my gosh, okay, here's another thing." And in that moment, again, I want to be there for her, and I don't want to minimize her feelings. She's allowed to feel the way she feels, and there are some truths to that. Sure, like I've been struggling. I'm really struggling with this move, and like right now, like I plan my own schedule at work, right? I got 19, 20 hours a week to fill at work. And like I'm struggling to like figure out how to do that. Like, there's almost like some shame and guilt around like, "What do you mean, Alex, you're having trouble filling 20 hours of work. But I am, because it's up to me, right? All my other jobs up until this point, right? It's like, hey, this is your shift. These are the times you're supposed to be here. Hey, if you're here a minute later than this time, you're late. When if you leave before this time, you're tardy. That's, you got to use PTO. This is new to me. Like, hey, you got 20 hours a week. Oh, and by the way, we don't care when you do it. You just got to do it. So I'm got to figure that out, right? I'm trying to manage the house, right? I'm trying to make sure that I'm pulling my own weight around here. And, it's tough. Oh my gosh. And then on top of it, her and I, and what I will say, this is very key. I want to say this because I question, right? So let's bring this into like the sexual addiction and like what that looks like in my brain when these things are going on. First and foremost, I want to run, right? I want to go and get lost in fuck, as I like to call it. Like, man, like I had a thought this morning, man. You know what? I'm just going to go look at some porn. I didn't, but like, that's what this looks like, right? Like this looks like getting on an app and swiping and sending pictures and like going and meeting up. Like this is what I want to do. I want to do these things, right? I don't want to do cocaine. I don't want to drink alcohol, right? I want to go hook up anonymously with someone that expects nothing from me other than a hookup. All they expect from me is sex. I can give you that. No emotional ties. No, what are we doing this weekend? Just have sex with me. That is how I escape, because I can do that. And there's nothing else that you expect from me. And so like everything in me is screaming, these primitive systems. I don't want to say everything, right? Because it's not everything. Because I know what's going on. But like these primitive systems inside of me are yelling and screaming, run. Now, if this was, 2 years ago, that's exactly what I would be doing right now. I'm sober, and I'm grateful for that. Thoughts are there, though, and that's what that looks like, right? Like, I'll just fucking run. Or, you know what? The first person that comes along that gives me some kind of attention or validation, like, boom, they're it now. And thank God that I don't have those things in my life. Thank God nobody's knocking on Alex's doorsteps. Now, even if someone was, it wouldn't just immediately go to that. But like, that's what this thing looks like, man. And like, there's shame around like even just the thoughts. Like, there's shame in that because I don't actually want to do those things. But that's what that looks like, man. Like just getting lost in it, man. Like getting lost in just this pursuit, of something physical. Again, I don't even want to do cocaine. I don't want to drink. But like, I want to go have anonymous sex and just get lost in that all day. Because that could be an all-day process for me. That could be a multiple-day process for me. And you know what? While I'm doing that, I'm not thinking about the struggles that I'm having right now. That's how all of this ties into each other. And so, I'm being honest, man. I'm bouncing things off, but that's kind of what this looks like. And so, sorry, I was for a second there. I was like, I don't know where I'm going. I know where I'm going with this, right? So I'm questioning the relationship, right? I'm questioning. I'll be honest. Like, is this even, what am I? Is this where I'm supposed to be? Now, the issues that are arising in my relationship, I want to say this, and I want to say this loud and clear. The issues within my relationship are not because I missed any red flags. They're not because I jumped into this too soon. These are problems that arise within relationships when you advance them forward. Yep. It's not that I missed anything. It's not that she is unhealthy. It's not that I'm unhealthy. It's that we are two people who have gotten even closer. We now live together, and these issues are arising because we're trying to figure out how we move around each other and how we move with each other. Not only do we move around each other, but how do we move together? Because again, I believe, firm believer, that within a relationship, there's 3 journeys. My journey separately, her journey separately, our journey together. 3 journeys. And so again, I want to loud and clear, these issues are not because this is not where I'm supposed to be. There's not because I missed any red flags or I jumped into this too soon or that she is unhealthy or that I am unhealthy. These are problems that arise within relationships when you advance them forward. The only difference here is now I am willing to take a look at them and I am willing to do some work around them. Before, I'm out. Or I'll stick around. I'm going to keep you here, but I'm going to go fuck around on the side because that's what I do until the next thing comes along. Or you know what? I'm just going to stay in this. You know what? We'll have some good times, but I'm not going to open up to you. And so, you know what? I'm challenging all that in this relationship. This is a relationship I want to be in. If I have enough data, now we're going to get into the God piece. I have enough data. I have enough data from God that says, Alex, this is where you're supposed to be. This is where I want you. This is where the work is for you right now. Because everything leading up to this point, it's all just fell into place. It just fell into place, man. I asked God to move me. And God moved me, which I've got a lot of resentment still around. I'm getting fired. I got a lot of resentment around that still. It can get ugly. It's moved. The energy's shifted a little bit, but it's still like, man, it can get ugly in there sometimes for sure. And that seems to be like the outlet for me, right? Is like when I'm all really stirred up and I want to get angry at something, right? Like that's where I go. I get angry at them. I get angry. I want to lash out. I want to hurt them because they hurt me. And so I'm trying not to like shame myself for that. And I'm not, I haven't reached out to them. John, I want to send text message. Oh, it's ugly. I want to get very ugly with it. So which tells me like there's still work that needs to be done there, right? I'm still grieving that. I'm still kind of going through that a little bit. But again, right? Like if I wasn't supposed to be down here, that wouldn't have happened. Or I wouldn't have gotten the job down here at the state hospital, and that's a whole other part that I'm struggling with, right? We're talking about, right? So we've got our journey together, but then we've also got our separate journeys, right? She's in school right now. That's part of her separate journey. Right now, it's all tied into our journey too. I've got this new job. And like this new job is not like it was at the treatment center, right? At the treatment center, it was, man, I am mingling and I am enmeshed I'm with clients all day, every day, right at the treatment center. Man, if the treatment center, if I wanted to spend 10 hours a day with clients, I spent 10 hours a day with clients. This job, since it's a psych hospital and there are, convicted violent sexual predators, it's not so open and free. And like, I found a lot of purpose and fulfillment in that I was very effective in working with clients one-on-one or just in a large group, whether that be in my educational groups, my one-on-ones, or just being with people, right? I felt very effective. So in this, with where I'm at, man, I'm like, I want more of that, but like I don't know if I'm going to get that. It's definitely not going to look like the way that it did the treatment center, and especially with the, the hours being cut, which again, I signed up for, so I'm not complaining. I think that there's a lot of opportunity there. I think that there is a lot of opportunity. What's really cool is, I shared with my bosses that like, hey, I'm a recovering sex addict now because my title is a peer specialist, right? It was really interesting. These guys are smart. We were out on the floor. We were passing some stuff around where they got these surveys that they pass around. So we got to go to the different wards and like we go in and I'm being introduced. And again, we're in the sexual offenders part of the facility. And one of the guys goes, peers, huh? So were you a client here? And I was like, no, but like he knew what like a peer meant, right? Like he knew that. And I just kind of said, hey, I can relate to some of the mental health side of things. And he's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Okay. And then, sharing with my bosses like, hey, I'm in recovery for sexual addiction. I actually have more in common with these guys than, just anybody. My story sounds a lot like their early stories. However, like my behaviors were different in that like I was one behavior away, one decision away from like potentially being in the same spot with what I grew up in the environment that I grew up in. I could have easily ended up there. And so again, and my bosses are like, man, this is awesome. We're going to see what we can do with this, but again, things move slow. That's okay. Right. Like, so that's kind of the problem with this role is like, they're still trying to figure out like what I'm going to be doing, because this is the first time that they've had a peer in the sexual offenders treatment services side of things, or sorts. This is the first time. So like they don't really know what to do with me. And again, they don't really know my full background and the perspective that I bring to the table with this, which I believe could be very effective. So yeah, it's, again, man, so much up in the air right now. There's just so much. I'm really trying not to have this like one man pity party by saying like, oh my God, things are so tough. I just don't even want to know what to do. I'm just going to throw my hands up. Right. So what I've really been trying to focus on is the simplicity of things. Right. I believe, and this is my own thoughts, this is part of Alex's curriculum, is I believe that recovery can be simplified. Recovery, you'll never hear me call recovery easy. What I will say about recovery is that it can be simplified and that we need to keep it simple, right? So there's that old verbiage, KISS, right? Keep it simple, stupid. Well, I don't like to call myself stupid because I'm really good at shaming myself in my own head and calling myself names that I don't deserve, and I don't deserve to be called stupid because I'm not stupid. So I like to change that to keep it simple and spiritual. So, right, one of the things that I really talk about in my, keeping it simple is there's four aspects that we need to invest in to keep things simple, right? And that is my willingness, my connection, my spirituality, and my honesty, right? Sharing honesty with where I'm at, but also too, I've got this compass on my leg of God, myself, my relationships, and my body. That's when things get tough. Right? When things get to where they look now, right? I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. Finances are tight. I'm in this new chapter, just struggling. Maybe things wouldn't be so bad. Money wasn't as tight. Money's tight though. And I don't do well with that. And so basically what I want to focus on is keeping things simple, right? So when we keep things simple, for me, this is what it looks like, right? Being more intentional with my prayers, right? The time that I'm spending with my higher power, who I call God, right? Really investing in that relationship, right? God first. So when I can focus on God, everything else falls into place, right? Being of service to other people, my relationships, investing in my relationships. Man, I got a couple sponsees right now. I know some people that are really hurting. I had this phone call with this guy the other day who's hurting. He also got fired from where I got fired from, like a week after I got fired for no reason. And he was actually an alumni that went through the program and knew the owner really well, and they literally just canned him. He was dealing with some health stuff, and they no heads up, they just canned him. So anyway, I'm talking to him, and man, he's going through it. He is just going through it. Things are pretty chaotic. He's just going through it. And so, I got on the phone and I got a chance to remind him of some things, like he was taking a lot of actions. Now, here's the thing is like, I have to be careful with my actions because I have expectations of my actions, right? So if I'm like, hey, okay, I need to take these actions. Well, these actions better bring me some kind of results immediately, because if not, then fuck, I'm done. And so I got to remind him that like, hey man, you're taking a lot of really good actions. And I get that those actions aren't bringing on the change that you're looking for immediately. But kudos to you for taking the actions. Because you have enough going on to where you could just throw your hands up and say, I'm done. I quit. I roll over. I give up. And you're not doing that. So I said, kudos, dude. Kudos to you for that. And, he's crying and he's like, thank you. And we get off the phone and I was outside, I was chopping wood. And, I thought to myself, I don't think I've ever done this before. I said, God, whatever blessings you have coming my way, will you send them to him instead? Because I'm okay. With where I'm at, yeah, things are fucking rough and I'm struggling. And if I look around, you know what? Like, I'm okay. Life doesn't look the way that I want it to look right now. No, I'm not comfortable. I'm not happy in my reality. Man, like to say that, God, whatever blessings you have for me, send them to him, please, because he needs it more than I do. And man, I truly am happy There's people around me right now that things are going really well. Ricky, man, shout out to Ricky on the podcast, dude. Great things, man. And like, I'm genuinely happy for people. Genuinely am, man. It definitely makes you look and go, okay, well, where's mine? But you know what? Again, I got to keep things simple, right? So being of service. Now, here's where like I think that I'm struggling a little bit is like I think I'm making too much time for other people and not enough time for myself. I'm not doing what I need to do for myself to take care of myself, right? So today I woke up and I'm like, okay, it's a me day, right? But like I'm struggling though because we deep cleaned the house yesterday, so there's no cleaning to do around here. The house is spotless. It looks amazing. I'm so grateful. I thought about this last night and I just want to say this out loud on the record. Like, I'm so grateful for my partner Beanie and like the cleanliness that she has around the house and just keeping the house clean and organized and not cluttered. Like, I really, really appreciate that. I really appreciate that. I'm very, very grateful for that. But again, I think that I try to do too much for other people, right? So I'm going, well, if I'm not cleaning the floors or if I'm not doing this, then she's going to be like, what'd you do today? And even with the podcast too, like, I don't want to be recording solely because she thinks I'm not doing it, or she thinks I'm not doing enough around the podcast. Like, that is not good motivation for me. So, like maybe looking at my commitments as far as to other people and what my commitments are to myself. Because again, I'm real good at doing things for other people. I hope and know that there are people out there that can relate to me on this one. Is like, I know that there are people out there that can relate to me on this. I know that there are. I do so much for other people, but yet when it comes time to doing things for me, I don't do enough for me. So I need to look at that. I need to look at that this week. What am I doing for me? And not that like I'm going to be so selfish and just say, fuck everybody else. If it doesn't serve me, then I'm not doing it. I don't ever want to have that attitude. But again, the balance of like, okay, well, yeah, Alex, like I need time for me. I need time for me because I deserve it. And that is how I get burnt out, is by giving all of my time to other people. So I need to look at that and, set some boundaries for myself. And I can do that. Again, without these things coming up, I believe that these are areas for growth. And man, without these struggles, we don't have the growth. If I'm sitting here going, man, I got a pile of cash in the bank, a super happy partner, man, like I have nothing. I'm not struggling with anything. To me, there's no growth. Now, not that like struggling's fun, but like I will say this too, and I hope and I think that there are people out there that can relate to this. Like, there's part of me that likes to suffer in silence. I'm just going to say that. There's part of me that really likes to suffer in silence. Woe is me, almost internally, right? I'm a victim. Oh my God, look at all these bad things. I like it. There's part of me that likes it. I don't like it, but then there's part of me that does like it. And that's not where I want to live either, man. So I'm really glad that I got on here today, and I'm doing some stuff for me. I'm doing some organizational stuff. I'm working on building a 6-week calendar. That way I've got all my stuff in one place, but it can't be on the phone, as I got this big whiteboard that I like measure things out, made the boxes, and then it's like supposed to be 60 degrees here today. So I'm going to go out for a walk / run. I need to do some laundry. So, I got some Alex things to do today, and I'm looking forward to it. And yeah, so, be on the lookout, for, and man, if you're struggling, like, please reach out, please throw it out in the comments. Right. Let's open up the conversation. It's okay to talk about what we're struggling with. It's okay. We're all struggling with something. It's okay to talk about it. No matter how big or how small you think that it is, if you're struggling with it, it's worth talking about. So talk about it, right? Finding out that you're not alone and that I can be safe and within vulnerability, that's huge. We need that a lot. So please share, again, even if it's just an email to me or, man, a phone call to somebody, just reach out, guys. Reach out. We need love. We need to be brought together. There's too much that's dividing us right now. And I don't want to be the reason why I'm divided or distant from other people because I'm not sharing. So with all that being said, guys, if there's any topics that you want me to discuss or talk about, feel free to email me. It is lionshere@gmail.com. Again, that's nolionshere@gmail.com. Again, shout out to BAI, Begin Again Institute. Go check them out. Their information will be in the description. I got it right. Yes. The coaching is still open, guys. I'm still open to taking on clients as coaching. So definitely, if that's something that you're interested in, like, please let me know. I'll coach anybody, on whether that's on the substance side, but my passion is for intimacy disorder, sexual addiction. That's what I want to spread. Thank you guys so much for joining me on my journey, man. I really appreciate this. Let me know if, please reach out. Let me know. Did any of this hit a chord with you? Is these things that you can relate with, and how are you dealing with them? Again, I'm always learning, man. I'm always learning, and I'm always open to learning. So thank you guys so much for joining me on my journey. It means so much to me. As always, keep coming back. It works if you work it, and you're worth it. We'll see you guys next time.